Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are checking out another of these brand new 30th anniversary Jurassic Park Captivz figures. This time, we've got another supersized version as we have the Triceratops, and I must say, I'm actually really impressed with this one. Not just because, again, it's a supersized figure, but it's actually pretty darn big. Like, even for supersized Captivz, they're normally still fairly small, but this Triceratops, you can see here in my hands, is definitely quite large, and I think you'll be able to appreciate how large it is a little bit more when we bring in the Tyrannosaurus for a comparison, because we do already have the Rexy version, and you'll again see I actually kind of expected them to be almost to scale with each other. I'm not sure why. I can tell you confidently that is not the case. But I do want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Plush Boy Q, who is responsible for me acquiring this, as he found them in his local area, had an extra Triceratops, so I figured why not grab it and get it up here on the channel for review. Of course, add it to my collection because I just don't know when these will actually show up in my area, and I'm fairly impatient sometimes. Again, when it comes to these supersized figures, you can see here, if we move our Triceratops back, basically that on one side of the slip you have the information as far as how to play that kind of game with the figures. And then here on the opposite side, you can see the figures that are in the first wave of Jurassic Park 30th Anniversary supersized Captivz, as we've got the Triceratops, the Spinosaurus, and the T-Rex. We have reviewed the Rex. We're about to review the Triceratops, and hopefully we'll be able to review the Spinosaurus at some point very soon as well. I just need to get a hold of it first. But another one of the really cool aspects of the new Jurassic Park Captivz is the fact that you get a trading card with them all the time, and look at how awesome the artwork is on these cards. Again, that is as classic, as nostalgic, and as beautiful as it honestly gets for a card like this. Again, it just takes me straight back to the days of being a child and collecting the Jurassic Park line. This entire year is going to be just magic. I am so psyched for the Jurassic Park 30th anniversary, and such a great way to start that year with the Captivz figures here. And again, here on the back, you can see that we have the really nice image of the figure itself, as well as some information on the Triceratops. But that is just absolutely awesome. Love these cards so much. But again, the Triceratops is definitely quite nicely sized. I'm very impressed with the size overall. The sculpt looks to be the same Triceratops that we had previously, just obviously now upscaled to a larger size. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So here is our Triceratops, and again, I just love these supersized figures. They are so cool. I love having the opportunity to own the Captivz figures in a larger size, because the figures as a whole are so beautifully sculpted and just so impressive when it comes to the fine detail. And it's awesome to have them in minifigures, but I've always thought when I was, acquiring the minis from the Captivz line that, boy, I would love to have those in a larger scale at some point. And it's so insanely cool that they are doing that now with these supersized figures. But the thing that's a little bit, I wouldn't say disheartening by any means, but maybe you could term it off about the Triceratops, is that this Triceratops was sculpted out and released in the Jurassic World line, which means it is more based off of a Jurassic World Triceratops rather than a Jurassic Park Triceratops. So I think as far as recreating a Jurassic World style Triceratops, Toymonster did an excellent job. They knocked it out of the park. The sculpt is phenomenal. The paint as well is pretty decent. There's not a whole lot going on for the paintwork. You can see it's primarily like a dark gray, and then they've dry brushed the lighter gray over top of it and allowed the majority of the face to still kind of have a bit of a darker gray look. And they have actually added in some color variation, as I can see some slight hints of browns and stuff throughout. And I actually love, another thing that I really do love about these figures is the fact that they go through the trouble with these larger ones to give the eyes a gloss coat. Look at that. The eye shines very nicely, so it definitely has a glossy look. On top of that, you can see the beak has a gloss coat, as do the horns. So they did do actually, a really good job of adding in that extra bit of realism for the figures that you don't usually see on the smaller, more mainline versions. So definitely a big time plus as far as that goes, if you ask me. But Again, the entire sculpt is very Jurassic World-ish. Like, you can just look at that head sculpt and see that that's a Jurassic World Triceratops. On top of that, you don't have the osteoderms and stuff like those scoots, moving down the course of the body that you would see on a Jurassic Park Triceratops. So I would definitely really, really, really like to see the Captivz line, Toymonster International, actually, take a stab at creating a Jurassic Park style Triceratops rather than the Jurassic World version and releasing that one, because I think they could do a great job on that. But to show you again that this is the same figure that we had before, but upscaled, here is the original Triceratops release. Well, it may not be the very first edition. I don't remember what version was the very first edition as far as the coloration goes, but it's obviously the smaller Captivz, and you can see the sculpt is definitely the same. You can see even the positioning of the tail and everything with the curve is the same. So we have already reviewed the sculpt of the Triceratops before, which means we don't need to do it again, but I did want to bring it up here and give you guys a nice good look at the figure as a whole to show you how nice the actual detailing looks on the larger version, how crisp it is, and also, again, give you an idea of what the paintwork looks like. Primarily, again, like I had said, we have like a dark tone of gray, a very strong dry brushing over the majority of the figure, but we do have a lighter gray for the underside. It definitely does transition to a bit of a lighter gray on the underside of the Triceratops, and then we have the darker tones for the face. Again, a little bit less dry brushing up here in the face, and some variation of browns and stuff. And they did a good job of painting out the horns where it's like, kind of has like that darker tone underneath, giving it a bit of a dirty look. Again, adding an element of realism. And then the addition of the gloss coat for the horns, the beak. We do have a tongue sculpted out in there also. But also the fact that with it painted like this, it kind of looks like we have nail paint. I don't know if they did specifically apply nail paint or if it's just because it's dry brushed, but it kind of looks like there is specifically nail paint for this release. So even though the sculpt isn't a brand new sculpt, it's basically what we've been doing with these supersized figures the entire time, and that's giving us an upscaled version of the smaller edition. And I, again, just am so in love with these, and this Triceratops as well is, again, another great addition to the supersized line. Another thing that is fun about these figures and the pop and lock aspect is the fact that you can kind of give them some, slight articulation, some even more so than slight, as you can turn the head around. The one thing, though, that is interesting about the Triceratops is my head's actually kind of loose. Like, even when it's pushed in all the way, I normally don't have that issue. It's still a little wobbly. Not bad by any means, but still a little bit wobbly. And you can also turn the tail, but then you'll disfigure the, figure completely. But as far as the size goes, for the supersized version of the Triceratops, lengthwise, you were looking at about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters, or about just under 2.5 inches or around 6.5 centimeters. Again, for a size comparison, we will bring in the smaller version here just to kind of put before you to show you basically what the size is of the two figures. I will also, of course, bring in Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Triceratops here, just to give you another size comparison and show you the fact that even though it's supersized, it's still fairly small overall. It's obviously a little smaller than an Attack Pack version, but for being supersized, it's also kind of, well, as far as a supersized Captivz anyway, it's also kind of big. And to show you that, there is the supersized Rexy, and you can clearly see, again, these are not to scale with each other, but also, again, that the Triceratops just has some bulk to it. Like, it's definitely an impressive size compared to the Rex. It's bigger for sure than that Rexy is, especially in the body mass. Maybe length might be similar, height might be similar, but body mass, the Triceratops definitely wins. And I felt like this is probably the most impressive comparison that I could give you guys. I don't feel like we really need very many because it's pretty obvious roughly what the size of the supersized figures are if you are familiar with them at all, or have watched any of my previous reviews of the supersized figures. You'll have a pretty good idea already of what they are size-wise, but again, I really wanted to show this comparison off just because it's so impressive between the Rex and Triceratops. So this 30th anniversary Jurassic Park Captivz Toymonster International Triceratops, the supersized version, is really, really nice. Again, it's cool that it is a supersized figure, but I really wish we would have had a resculpted version for the Jurassic Park line, because the Triceratops does tend to kind of morph and change through films compared to where you look at it. Like, if you look at it from Jurassic Park to the Lost World Jurassic Park, it looks different. If you look at it from either of those films to the Jurassic Park 3 version, it still looks different. And if you look at it from those versions to the Jurassic World version, yet again, it looks different. So there are many different variations of Triceratops in the Jurassic franchise, and if this is a 30th anniversary release, it would have been nice to have one that's actually sculpted out to look like the Jurassic Park Triceratops. That being said, though, the sculpt that they have given us here is a great rendition of a Jurassic World Triceratops, very, very highly detailed and very impressive overall, especially when it comes to the screen accuracy. I really feel like they did a good job on that. The paintwork on this is pretty good. I don't think it's quite as nice as the Rex, but it's still pretty good. I wish I would have seen more variation of color throughout the course of the body rather than just such a strong dry brushing. But that said, it still looks alright. The Triceratops from Jurassic World does have a grayish coloration to it, so it kind of matches to what we see on screen. I do like the fact that we have a darker coloration slightly for the head, or at least a little less dry brushing up there. The thing that really impresses me about this one, again, is the fact that we have a really nicely painted eye with a nice gloss coat added to it, nice gloss coat added to the horns and the beak and everything. So that is a huge plus for this, as well as it looks like we sort of have nail paint, which is also a huge plus for this one. So even though the actual paintwork isn't anything really to write home about and isn't quite as impressive, I think, as what we saw on the Rex, it's still impressive in its own way and has very impressive aspects about it. Of course, the most impressive part about the entire figure is the fact that when it comes to a Captivz, it's quite large, and even when it comes to a supersized Captivz, it's quite impressive in the size department. Easily the biggest one that I have out of all of the supersized figures, which this is now my 5th, because I have the mechanical arm baryonyx, the Pyroraptor, the Giganotosaurus, the T-Rex, and now the Triceratops. Again, I'm very, very impressed with the size overall. So if you are interested in this, make sure you head to your local Walmart. Keep an eye out for the brand new 30th anniversary Jurassic Park Captivz. When they do start to show up, grab yourself some. This one retails for around the $10 range, so not a bad price for a beautiful Triceratops, as well as some really fun extras and that incredible card. So make sure you grab yourself this when you do find it. Again, they are kind of like mystery eggs where you don't know which version you're getting, but hopefully you'll be able to acquire the one you want, or all three. I still need the Spino. Hopefully I'll have the chance to own that one very soon. In the meantime, again, keep an eye out at your Walmarts, grab yourself some of these supersized eggs, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.